Hello, beautiful people. Beth here from Access Paranormal. I really hope this is going live. I'm talking about haunted objects, and I think my phone is haunted. So, anyway, hopefully, that everyone's able to see this. Um, I'll continue onwards. As I said before, this is about this week's topic. Now, this week's topic has come up because Ariana from the USA actually posted a comment on the last week's one, which was about evidence, sort of like a bit of a review or sort of a debunking of a particular video. And she posted about, well, it's about a possessed doll. What are your thoughts? Now, I'll read the actual question that she had in mind. And her question was, I was taught that a malevolent entity can actually attach to a doll or any object, using that object as a vessel to eventually try to oppress a human or infest a dwelling. What are your thoughts? Which is a great question. In true Beth style, I went to type war and peace, so I was starting a great big long paragraph and then realized it would probably be better in talking about it in a video, because when it comes to something like this, there are many shades of grey. So, to answer the question, do I think that objects can be haunted? What do you think? Actually, you guys out there, do you think that an object can be haunted? So type yes or no. Hi Damo, how are you, mate? So what do you reckon? Do you think something like this, do you think as an investigator and someone interested in the paranormal that objects can be haunted? Type yes or no. Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, there's been, it's interesting because it's interesting how it can happen, because sometimes it can actually be, well, I'll explain it in three different ways, and the best way to do it. Yeah, see, hello, Jerry. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people do. A lot of investigators do. There's the possibility of life after death. So why wouldn't it happen in an object? So what as I said I'll do is I'll break it down into three different categories. And the first one being is, and not to say that everyone always fits into each of these, but there is the believer. So believer of the afterlife. So you believe that something happens after we pass, and that we don't just die. Now, if you come from that perspective, then when you're looking at the possibility of haunted objects, then yeah, you know what? That could actually be the case. This might actually be something that could happen. So for instance, with the Dybbuk box, and that's spelled Dybbk, and that's where it's a Jewish culture thing, where they have actually in World War II they had these beautiful old wine cabinets, and because of the atrocities of the Holocaust, they would pour their hurt and angst and sorrow into these beautiful boxes to take away from them as a way of healing. And by doing that, there's not many of them around. They're actually meant to be quite active, and I think in recent times a certain person in America has actually obtained one for a museum that's meant to be starting up fairly soon. So there's also that as well. What is it? There's Annabelle. Who's heard of Annabelle? You have to have heard of Annabelle. Movies made about it. Again, that particular entity has actually known to have actually caused death, so that's intense. With the Dybbuk box, I know when they were bringing it over on the plane, it was actually causing issues as well. So I find this stuff fascinating, where and why this information has come from. So there are different types of all different types of haunted objects all around the world that have been reported, and people having reported them themselves. So if you are somebody who does believe in the afterlife, then that's absolutely a possibility that an object can be haunted, because it's based on the theory that, well, if a location that we investigate has activity, and that could actually be something that could be haunted, or a person could be haunted, then why would not have an object be haunted? So that's where that kind of all bases in there as well. So that's the first sort of belief aspect. That's the whole first category, as you could say, is people who believe in an afterlife. Yes, definitely there could be a haunted object. Second one I would say is the open but not confirmed. I know it sounds like someone's diary, but it's not the case at all. I actually, for myself, I find I probably fit into this a bit. So these are the peeps that generally are open to the possibility, but it takes a lot to convince them. And as I said, like myself, I feel I kind of fit into this a little bit more. So when it comes to haunted objects, if you were to say to somebody who is open but not confirmed, I would say it would have to be rock your socks off activity for something for me to think, okay, this could actually be something. I would be looking at, obviously, more other aspects of what the reports would be. I'd be looking at why something was happening, when's it happening, is it happening in one location, is it happening in another location, all that kind of stuff. So I find it very, I find it from a very logical perspective in that regard. So from that point of view, yeah, it could be, but not yet. Now, there is a little story in that I personally have never come across a case where I've actually dealt with a haunted object, but I've held one. Now, I call him Fearless McPhee. His name is Glenn McPhee, and he's part of a group called Paranormal X-Files, and they run tours in this great location that I was in called Black Rock House in Victoria. And he had bought one from eBay. Now, we know that we see the little memes come up, you know, haunted doll, $1,000, you know, it's take it, you know, it's causing all activity. So this is the kind of guy we're like, hands up, I want to buy this. So anyway, I'm at this beautiful, beautiful house in Victoria, and I ended up doing a live feed from the place holding on to this haunted doll. And I have to say, I didn't get any heebie-jeebie vibes personally myself. It was a creep factor because I think of its age, but to look at it, I'm not joking, it's probably only about that size, and you know, very small. It really didn't feel like anything was happening for me. From an energy perspective, I didn't feel fear, I didn't feel any physical symptoms sometimes investigators do if they're out exploring and sort of sensing out. So yeah, it was probably more from a comical factor, you know. I've investigated a Navy warship, and I've done a live feed with a haunted doll. I think it's kind of those bucket list things. So yeah, it was very interesting and lots of fun. So if you are watching, Glenn, at some point, by all means, I would love it if you were able to update us in the feed below what is actually happening or what hasn't happened with this particular doll. Because at the point in time, he actually had said there hadn't been a lot happening with any activity wise of what particular doll. So there's that as well. So I'm the open but not confirmed category. And then of course there's the skeptic slash critical thinker type investigator, where the thing has to be literally walking on its own two legs in order for something to be considered possibly paranormal. So there needs to be a lot of something, you know, evidence and repeatable evidence, and that's the way in which a lot of skeptics think, and that's fine and that's totally cool. But there needs to be hardcore repeatable evidence for someone to sit there and go, yeah, we might be dealing with something here that we can't explain. But then again, that's very, very, very rare. So generally from a skeptical critical thinker perspective, absolutely not. There's no such thing as haunted objects. There's no such thing as malevolent entities as well. It's not something that can actually be verified and or proven. So there's that too. So one thing I thought would be really interesting is, I want to throw out a question to you guys while you're there, is do you think that Ouija boards are haunted instead of actually being portals? What do you think? Do you think there's a possibility that maybe Ouija boards aren't portals to anything, they're just actually possibly haunted objects themselves? So what are your thoughts? Oh, hey Sarah, I'm glad to see you joined, by the way. I know it takes a while, as good old streaming of Facebook. And for those who are watching the replay as well, by all means, put your answers as well. A few times in my collection that they were passed to me because of the previous owners. Oh, wow. They sit on my office and have, I've got to do this. Give me a reason to think that there was anything innate. Yeah, empty objects. Nothing has ever happened. And I think suggestion and urban myth asides are a big part of it. Really, really good point, Mark. Really good point. Is it more myth? Is it more the fact that the myth is stronger than the truth? We don't know. From your experience, having had that, nothing's happened. But then, is it the people? Is it because already we have a bias where we're more logical with this, so we're more than likely going to explain it away. And so when something does happen, it's like, oh, no, no, no. So that's the other aspect of it as well. It's always good to keep an open mind, but interesting. Like I said with you, with my Fearless McPhee haunted doll, I didn't get any, I didn't feel anything at all, and it was a very interesting situation. So very interesting. Cool. No, I don't think so. Yeah, interesting, Claire. Really interesting. So it's a lot of people, as I said, like when you hear of stories of people who, say for instance with Annabelle, having proclaimed or reportedly killed people, to then have other objects where to hold one, you're sitting there thinking something's going to happen soon. Like why is one object having the intention to kill or possibly kill or upset or maim or hurt somebody health wise? And then of course, why is another literally like nothing? Is it purely someone's interpretation, or as Mark said, is it purely just urban myth? Very interesting. So great answers, love the answers. So I think it's really interesting with Ouija boards and haunted objects, where people often think, well, we're very close or very quick to say that a haunted object is that. What's not to say that that's not actually a portal. If you're going to be exploring these ideas and theories, maybe it's a portal to something. So, and then of course, why would it be a portal? Why would that object be that way? What's the intention? And then the list goes on. I could talk very, very long about that stuff, so I won't bore you. So yes, that as well. Another tip as well I wanted to mention too is that if you are going to look at using paranormal mediums within your team, if you have a team or if you're an independent person, be not wary of the information they provide. That's not the case. More the fact that use the information to add to your case. Use it as a way to gather information. Don't use it as a guide. It could be very well to have someone come in and say, I feel that there is a haunted object, and it's this USB stick. This USB stick is haunted. The person who wanted to make sure everyone gets a virus, hypothetically, right? And that's the reason why this place is haunted. And as investigators, because majority, if not most, we don't have proclaimed abilities that other mediums would have, we would go on that because we're trusting, and that's fine. There may well be quite a lot to that. I'm not saying that mediums are lying in any way, shape or form. It's just using the information that they provide to add to your case. Don't let a USB stick run your investigation. So just pull back and be a little bit level-headed. Don't let that be the focal point. If that is it, if you've gone into an investigation and suddenly something might just be haunted and that's the only thing, but the only reason why you know that is because a medium has said that particular article is haunted, just be very wary of that. Add it to your case and just keep going. Nadine, I've heard, state jury can hold energy. Is this possible? It could be possible. Again, it depends on what your belief is. Absolutely. Great. And a great point as well. Op shop stuff, antique furniture as well. I know that a friend of mine only really likes to get, she does table tipping, and she only likes to get tables from antique shops because they have human history and energy on there as well. So it could very well be. You make a very valid point. It depends, again, it's what your belief is. If you believe in it, and the possibility, that's more than likely will happen. If you don't, then not so much, but I think it's still good to be open. But a great point made there, Nadine. Great point. All right, everybody, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this talk. It's been great, and next week's will be up on Tuesday as well. Linda, we've just finished, my dear. You'll have to watch the replay. So thanks, everybody. I hope you got a lot out of it, and be sure to watch for next week as well. If you do miss these live Facebook page replays as well, it gets lost in your news feed or anything like that, they are on the Access Paranormal website, which is accessparanormal.com/learning. Thank you so much, lovely people. Enjoy.